What's up, guys? This is the Honest Outlaw here, and today we're going to be talking about the top 10 most iconic movie guns of the 1980s. We're going to talk about 10 of the best and most used, and best looking, of course, guns from movies of the 1980s, whether it be action films, comedies, or horror movies. All these guns are going to be real firearms. There'll be a completely different video for fictional guns, so keep an eye out for that. These firearms have been chosen based on impact, popularity, real-world awesomeness, and overall coolness. These guns I grew up watching as a kid, and I'm sure most of you guys did as well. And when I got older, I knew I wanted to own and shoot them. And now that I am older, I have a little bit of experience on a lot of these platforms, and I have shot them and owned some of them, and I'll probably roll in some of those clips as well. Now, these guns don't have to be made in the 80s. In fact, most of them were not. They just need to be made popular by famous movies of the 80s. Number 10, the STEYR AUG. Revolutionary at the time and still very futuristic looking, the AUG is an Austrian semi or fully auto bullpup 5.56 rifle. Bullpup means the action and magazine of the rifle is placed behind the pistol grip to reduce the overall length of the firearm, but still keep a 16-inch barrel. Easily most famously used by Carl in Die Hard, it was also used in RoboCop, The Running Man, and Commando. Even though when Carl used it in Die Hard, he couldn't seem to hit anything with it, it's still a great rifle. You're just gonna have to take my word for it. Number 9, the Desert Eagle. This 4-pound semi-automatic pistol from Magnum Research comes in several calibers from .357 all the way to .50 cal. Now, not near as practical as some of the other firearms on this list, but it does look really great on screen. Known for being one of the largest and most powerful semi-automatic pistols on Earth, it is used by lots of 80s action stars and villains alike. From Arnold in Commando to Rowdy Roddy Piper, this pistol was used all over the place. But my favorite movie that this pistol is in has got to be RoboCop. If you haven't seen it in a while, rewatch it and check out the scenes where Red from That 70s Show, or Kurtwood Smith, uses this big pistol to full effect. Number 8, the Ruger Mini 14. This is another semi or fully auto 5.56 rifle with a 30-round magazine. Unlike the AUG, the Mini 14 has a more traditional stock and look. It also has a similar action to the M1 Garand rifle from World War II. In the 80s, before the rise of the AR-15, this was one of the coolest rifles you could get in a film. Used in movies like Mad Max 3, Crocodile Dundee, Commando again, Romancing the Stone, Death Wish 3 and 4, but primarily used by Hannibal from the A-Team. Now, I know the A-Team is a TV show and not a movie, but this is my list, so I can make an exception. Number 7, the Tech 9. It's a full auto 9mm pistol, primarily used by gang members, criminals, and bad guys from 80s pop culture. It's unique to pistols because the action and magazine are in the front instead of in the pistol grip, like a submachine gun, but without a stock. This was used by bad guys in movies like RoboCop, Beverly Hills Cop, The A-Team, and Miami Vice, but my favorite use of this firearm was by Jack Burton, or Kurt Russell, as you know him, from Big Trouble in Little China, one of my favorite cult classics from the 80s. Number 6, the AK-47, or the Kalashnikov rifle, because if you have to kill everybody in the room, accept no substitutes. This is one of the most iconic rifles of the Cold War, and maybe of all time. You can see it in movies like Rambo 2, 3, Iron Eagle, Bond movies, Predator, RoboCop, Red Dawn, Platoon, Commando again. You name it, if bad guys were getting shot, they were probably holding this. Why is it not higher on the list, you ask? Primarily because in Hollywood it was used as a bad guy gun. A communist gun. In the 80s, it was the most evil gun that there was. I grew up hating it, but now that I own one, I actually love it. You just have to shoot one. The 7.62 by 39 caliber 16-inch rifle is known for its simplicity and reliability. It's very affordable, however not in the USA. The ammo is cheap and it is easy to use. It was built to be rugged, reliable, and mass-produced. It's so easy that a child can learn how to use it, and they do. Made by tons of different companies and used by many different countries, it's even on a couple of flags, it is the most produced weapon in human history with over 100 million rifles made. Number 5, the Uzi. This series of Israeli open-bolt blowback operated 9mm submachine guns, carbines, and machine pistols is one of the most reliable and popular guns on Earth. It is used in over 90 countries and it has been the most produced submachine gun of all time. Why did it make the list? Simple, because when I think of 80s action, I think Chuck Norris, who used this machine gun to great effect in movies like Delta Force and Lone Wolf McQuade. It is also used in many other movies, including Scarface, Terminator, Day of the Dead, A View to Kill, and of course, Commando. Number 4, the M16 with a grenade launcher. Another popular choice in the 80s, and for good reason. Not only does it look cool, but it's also very effective. Still used today by militaries all over the world, this rifle launcher combo is a semi or fully auto 5.56 rifle with a 20-inch barrel originally made by Armalite of the United States, and an M203 40mm grenade launcher just in case stuff really gets real. The M16 is reliable, easy to use, easy to shoot, and very accurate. This combo was famously used by Tony Montana for his last stand in Scarface. If you haven't seen that scene lately, it's one of the best scenes in film history. But also used by Arnold in Predator, Chuck in Missing in Action, and one of my all-time favorites, Heartbreak Ridge. Number 3 was a tough choice. I would have to say, basically all of these top 3 are interchangeable. At one point or another, I thought either of these 3 could be number 1. But, coming just a little bit short, the M60. The M60 is a belt-fed 7.62mm general-purpose machine gun used by the US military. One of the reasons it came up short is because it's known for reliability issues, especially in Vietnam. However, at 600 rounds a minute, it really looks great on screen. And man, if you look close, does it look mean. One of the most popular guns used in 80s action flicks like Die Hard, Full Metal Jacket, Commando again, Heartbreak Ridge, Red Dawn, Missing in Action, but most famously by old Sly himself in Rambo 1 and 2. At the end of each of these films, uses this fully automatic machine gun to shoot just about everything in sight. At number 2, anything with a laser sight. These sights were all over the place in the 90s for sure, but they started in the 80s. In movies like Tango and Cash, you can see Kurt Russell using it on a giant one on a revolver. You can see him in Predator, Cobra. If you guys remember Stallone using that submachine gun at the end there with that giant laser sight on it. Friday the 13th, Jason Lives, Beverly Hills Cop, Beverly Hills Cop 2, but I'd have to say Terminator made them famous. Mounted on a .45 caliber 1911 long slide, this laser sight was so big it looked like a scope. And it had to be powered using an external battery pack attached by a cord that had to be hidden. It was big, heavy, clumsy, covered up the sights, but it looked really cool, and it fit the T-800 perfectly. Now we'll get to the honorable mentions. The first one being the Browning High Power. Can't forget about Beverly Hills Cop and Delta Force. The High Power is one of the most used and best pistols of the last 100 years. However, it didn't have quite enough star power to make this list. If it would have been in more movies or used by more action heroes or villains, it probably could have had a shot at this list. However, it just fell a little bit short. The same goes for the Smith & Wesson Model 19, used in Romancing the Stone, Beverly Hills Cop, the original Bourne Identity, Death Wish, but primarily in one of my favorite scenes in 80s action movies, Lethal Weapon. It was the main sidearm of Murtaugh when he cracks his neck and takes out the bad guy. Finally, we've got to number 1. And in my opinion, it couldn't have been anything else but the Beretta 92 series. This is one of the most used semi-auto pistols in Hollywood in the 80s and 90s. This double stack 9mm was adopted by the US military in 1985 as the M9. You can see this pistol in too many movies to count because of its military status, law enforcement use, reliability, high capacity, and great looks. If you don't remember, it was Riggs' sidearm in Lethal Weapon 1 and 2. A souped up version of this, the Auto 9, was used in RoboCop. It was used in The Killer, Red Heat, but most famously used by John McClane in probably the best movie of the 80s, Die Hard. It edged out the competition just simply because it was in a higher class of movie and it was in a lot more movies than the competition. Even though the M60 had a great scene with Rambo, I still have to give it to Bruce Willis in Die Hard with the Beretta 92. If you like this video, please hit the like button and make sure to share. If you want to see future videos like this, please subscribe to the channel. If you like my choices or you thought I got a couple of wrong, please leave them in the comments below. Please help out your local homeless shelters and remember to recycle. Check you later.
That muzzle brake is a beast. Jesus. Bring it down a notch, killer.